Hey, what's happening? My name is D, and welcome back to my channel. Today, we're turning up the heat, by which I mean we're talking about hot takes. Last week for my midweek video, I talked about some of my bookish hot takes, and I asked for some in the comments, and I got a couple from my Instagram. I did that like question story thing. I don't know what that's called. So I screenshotted the bookish hot takes, got them on my phone here. I'm going to respond to them, have a little chat. And just looking at the first one that I got queued up here, I kind of cropped out the names, so I'm just gonna crop out all the names so nobody feels left out because everyone was left out. Maybe it's probably better that I leave everyone anonymous anyway, right? I don't know how to do this YouTube thing. Okay, so the first one says, one of my own hot takes is that we don't have to name fantasy/sci-fi worlds. Like, when do you ever mention the name of your hometown in casual conversation? Sometimes it is necessary to do so, but I feel like it can bog down a story and make it less immersive. I see what you mean. And I think I know who this is. I don't know if I agree, though, because it helps me a little bit to just like, I think the information helps me feel like I know what's going on. I think that there's maybe like a balance that can be struck here. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's some fantasy books that I've read where it feels like they're telling me information and expositing in a way that doesn't feel natural and organic. But at the same time, I think if there's a way to naturally or comfortably drop the name of the planet, the country, the world, the town, or whatever, I just think it helps me understand what's going on, because if I feel confused, I don't feel like I can immerse myself in the story. But this feels like a preference thing. We're discovering that it's hard, or some authors struggle with expositing in a way that feels natural. And I think that just means that I think that's something that some writers can work on. Like, in casual conversation, I do mention like my hometown and where I live now quite a bit, because for me, I think it's part of my perspective, like growing up on like, I guess, the Pacific Northwest. I'm in Canada, so it's like I'm as far south in Canada as you can get, but regionally it's like I'm part of the Pacific Northwest. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm from like just outside of Vancouver. That's what I'm trying to say. So as a West Coast boy, I have like a very different perspective than somebody who's from like the East Coast of Canada, or even like the East Coast of the United States or whatever. So what I'm saying is I do bring up where I'm from and where I live quite a bit, because I think it informs my perspective. But when someone writes these things, it definitely, it can be very clunky and obvious that you're just trying to info dump. And that was one of my biggest gripes with Fourth Wing, I think, because the character would just randomly recite kind of unimportant history of the world or the continent that the story takes place in. So yeah, I see what you mean, and I think that's a valid opinion. All these opinions, I think, are valid, but I don't agree. But I see what you mean. I don't agree. Okay, and the second hot take is, my hot take is that every character is morally gray. That's really philosophical. I guess so. Like, if you believe that not every person is fully good or fully evil, then yeah, everyone is like a different shade of gray, I suppose. So that would apply to characters as well. I think there are some characters that have been written to be like the epitome of evil, and there isn't really any redeeming qualities, but those characters aren't really good or interesting for the most part, you know? Like, I don't know what I'm saying other than, I guess so. If you believe all people aren't wholly good or wholly bad, then I think that makes sense. I don't know if I hold that belief, because there's some people, especially like since I've been on TikTok, I've seen some people where I'm just like, nah, you all bad. You know? Yeah, it's probably a little like judgmental or self-righteous, and I don't mean it to be. I just mean like some characters and some people have philosophies that are just like not redeemable. But I guess you're not saying that all characters are redeemable. You're just saying that all characters are morally gray, and you won me over. Yeah, I agree. That makes sense. All characters are some shade of morally gray, and if they're not, they're probably not that well written. That's what I would, that's my little addition to your hot take. Okay, next one. I guess my only hot take is I will refuse to buy any book with a cover that has that rough sandpaper feel. Can't stand it. I swear I can feel it in my teeth. And then they added one of these emojis. I don't know what you're talking about. To be honest, like I don't think I've ever felt a cover that's got like a rough feel to it. Like I think there's one that like might be a little textured, but one sec. Okay, so the Rage of Dragons is probably like the roughest cover I have on my shelf, and it's kind of maybe a little sandpapery. I always thought of it as like some sort of like matte kind of photo image or whatever. I mean, that's not pleasant. You know, it's not like, ooh, feels so good. You know, none of that. And then these are nice and floppy. We talked about I like a good floppy paperback with a matte finish. And this definitely has like a matte finish. It's got some nice foiling on it. But this doesn't feel sandpapery. It feels more like just like the cardstock. It feels like rough cardstock. Is this what you mean, like rough cardstock, whatever? Because I thought you meant like it literally feels like sandpaper, and I've never felt a book like that before. And if this is what you mean with like the rough paper for covers and stuff, like yeah, like you know, I guess like sensory stuff is different for different people, and certain like textures are really unpleasant for some people, and other people like love it. Some people don't care about texture at all, so it's like I can't even be like, oh, I disagree. It's just like I don't know. I've never thought about it before. I will say that there's some books that I've seen like For the Crown and For the Woods by Hannah Witten. It's like a Red Riding Hood retelling or something. The paper is not uniform. It's like really rough, thick paper, and then it's cut, and it's kind of, it feels more old-fashioned, which I thought was kind of cool, but I didn't love the feel of it. I never read those. I DNF'd the first one after like 50 pages, and then I think I unhauled them. I think I gave them to a friend. I've also had these for like 2 years, and I have never felt the desire to read these. Maybe that's another hot take. I don't know. And this one's interesting. I think something that I do that annoys other people is that I organize my books by color, but that's only for standalones. I don't know. I would never do that, but I think that I'm on your side because I think it's weird that it annoys other people, right? Like, it's your house. It's your space. And it's your shelves. Like, you got to find the books you're looking for based on a system that makes sense to you, right? What do you do within the colors? Like, do you go from like darkest to lightest each color, or do you alphabetize them within the color? Like, what do you do there? I'm genuinely curious. I do think it's good you only do that for standalones, because I think the line for me would be if you like broke up a series just because they come in different colors or whatever. But at the same time, that would also maybe bug me because you have like random colors kind of breaking up the pattern. You know, like if you had like the reds and then like a blue and a green and a yellow or something like that, because it's like the series or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I think that if people are getting annoyed at you for the way that you organize the shelves, they're being petty and they're getting judgmental over shit that doesn't matter. And you can tell them I said that. Matter of fact, send them this. Hey, leave them alone. They can organize their books however they like. Mind your business. And then I only got like a couple from my Instagram, and that's fine. Plot doesn't matter. I only care if I like the protagonist's voice. I know this person in real life, and that is 100% true. And we've had like conversations about this, and it was funny because I think I recommended like Erin Morgenstern's books to this friend, but she also doesn't like fantasy. And so I was like, I don't know how to, what? And it's great. And she's great. I guess like, I think that when people say there's no plot, what they really mean is that the plot is meandering or whatever. Like if there's truly no plot, then it's just a poorly written book. But I think there are some books that are like a slice of life, or it's a meandering sort of like, kind of going all over the place, you know. Like when I teach writing workshops, I usually tell my students that poets, and by which I mean all artists, lead their audience down a path. And so as creatives, it's your job to like forge a path and lead people where you want to go, and you get to plan out the route. And so I think with some plots, they're really straightforward. It's just a straight line, and that's fine. There's some that take all these zigs and zags and zags and zigs. There's twists and turns and loop-de-loops. And I think there's some plots that are just like wide open meadows, and you just kind of wander around and look at the pretty flowers and, you know, enjoy these sweet moments on a rainy day in a bakery or whatever the scene is. And I think that's kind of what I was talking about in my Starless Sea review when I talked about like no plot, just vibes. I think there is plot. It's just that the plot isn't a concise direction. You know, it's just wide open and it's going slow. And I think that there's, you know, room for books like that. I like books like that sometimes, but I think that saying that it doesn't have a plot or that plot doesn't matter is maybe, you know, like an over exaggeration of something like that. But I am right there with this person when they said they only care if they like the protagonist's voice. For me, I think in order for me to really enjoy a book, I have to like the protagonist and want to root for them. And if I don't, it won't necessarily like it'll definitely damper my enjoyment of the book, but it won't make me think that the book is bad. Like I can acknowledge that a book is well written and still like dislike the protagonist or something. I think I've reviewed a couple of books like that. Yeah, for me to really like a book, I gotta like the main character or at least be able to relate to them enough. Okay, this last one, I am gonna name drop this person. This last hot take comes from a boy, my best friend, my main man, the mod to my Discord server, Ryan, aka Sunshine, aka Sunny, aka Sunny Boy. Not only is J.K. Rowling a gross human, but her writing is just straight up not good. You know, Ryan, I didn't know that you ever read Harry Potter at all. We've never discussed this before. I've never read Harry Potter. I think, no, that's not true. I read the first two when I was a little kid, and I thought they were really boring. So I just like stopped reading them after that. And I've seen like 3 of the movies and also didn't like those. There's a lot of big franchises that I've never been particularly interested in and I don't know like shit about. But it's really funny because my TikTok, it's like, you know, I like a lot of stuff that, you know, I follow a lot of accounts who are big fans of these things. So I see all these like memes and jokes or whatever, and I straight up don't understand them. So like Harry Potter is one. Star Wars is another. I hated Star Wars as a kid. Like I watched it because I was told that's what boys watch, but I didn't like it at all. So like Harry Potter is one. Like I said, I think I maybe skimmed through the first 2 books, thought it was boring, and then just got a text message. I don't want to oh, you know what? This is important. So yeah, I think I read the first 2 when I was like 10 and didn't like them, thought they were boring, didn't give a shit, and then saw a couple of the movies because they were like the big thing in school or whatever. And again, was just like, oh, I don't care about these characters. I don't care what happens. These guys aren't funny. They're not interesting. They're not cool. Same thing with like Star Wars and like Spider-Man. And there's something else. I like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and like that whole franchise. I like that, but everything else I don't give a fuck about. Yeah, I think it was Star Wars. There's I know a lot of Star Wars fans, and I straight up like don't understand the appeal. But like don't try to explain it to me. You're not going to convince me. You're not going to convert me. So yeah, I can't really weigh in on J.K. Rowling's writing. I don't remember anything about it, but I do remember that it must have been not super engaging to me when I was 10 because I dropped it. And I wasn't like the kind of kid who was very flippant about things. Like if I was into something, I was into it. Like I've talked a lot about the franchises that have meant a lot to me and how I latched onto them pretty aggressively. Like I would have, if the thing was interesting to me, I'd still be into it today. And that's just not what happened. So that's the only thing I can say about it. I don't want to like engage with Harry Potter content of any kind because of who J.K. Rowling has turned out to be, the way she uses her wealth, and like I don't fuck with billionaires in and of itself, so that alone would be enough for me to be like, But also the way she uses her wealth to advocate, I guess, against trans people and perpetuates transphobia and harm towards this community. And like, she's a TERF, and I don't fuck with TERFs. No TERFs on my turf. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, sorry, I'm meeting up with my producer later tonight, and she needs to like change when we're meeting. So yeah, I'm aware of the kind of person that J.K. Rowling is, and I've heard other people say that the Harry Potter books are like mediocre at best. And one of my favorite book talk sketches I've ever seen was this dude comparing it to Percy Jackson and the character arcs that the protagonists of those two franchises go on and stuff like that. But yeah, I trust Ryan's opinion of the writing because he's a very smart guy. Obviously, like, he helps me out a ton with making content. He's a great friend, very supportive. He's a great musician and just a good dude. And he didn't pay me to say any of that. I'm just giving him a little shout out because, you know, like, this channel wouldn't really function without his support, and the Discord that we just set up, it wouldn't run super great without him. I mean, we haven't really done much. It's because it's just 3 of us at the time of the recording. But still, like, I super appreciate him. But also, I agree with what he's saying. So yeah, those were all the hot takes I collected. It's funny. I think whenever, like, I feel like the people who keep coming back to my videos are almost as laid back as me. So like, our hot takes are pretty, like, they feel pretty like chill and not super like egregious and mean. And I think that's dope. Like, I like the idea of hanging out with a bunch of chill bookish folks because that's all I've ever wanted, you know. I mean, that's not all I've ever wanted. I want a lot of things, but I remember when I was younger kind of wishing that I could talk to people who were chill and cool about like books and movies and stuff like that, and we've talked about that before. But so I appreciate everybody who comes back and watches these videos, and I appreciate everybody who signed up for the Patreon. So yeah, in case you missed it in my last video, I set up a Patreon page. I didn't think that I was going to for a while, because one, I thought that maybe you had to be kind of like a bigger deal to have a Patreon. I think I've mentioned this before, but a few years ago, some friends and supporters of my poetry were really encouraging me to like start a podcast and start a Patreon and do like bonus episodes there. I had like a couple dozen people really encourage me to do this. And then my 2 best friends and a lady named Tessa were the only ones who signed up for the Patreon. And, you know, I was going through a lot. You know, still kind of am, but like, I was going through a lot, and it was hard to come up with like 2 podcast episodes a week. The podcast was meant to be sort of about mental health and stuff like that. And it was just hard to feel like present something that was insightful and helpful and encouraging. And so I shut that down, and I kind of like, I kept doing the podcast for a little bit. I don't do the podcast anymore because, again, I think that like trying to be really serious and insightful, and there was a lot of pressure on me to be this like wise poet who knows what he's talking about all the time and knows what he's doing. It was just like, I think I cracked under the pressure a little bit. So doing this kind of thing where it's like, you know, I'm still probably presenting some like deeper thoughts or like hippy dippy trite kind of things, because that's just kind of how I talk. But I think doing this thing where it's like less serious and I don't have to be anything but like a guy who's read a book is really nice. So yeah, now I've reset up my Patreon. I brought it back. And if you want exclusive content that you're not going to find anywhere else, please consider subscribing to my Patreon. You're going to get a monthly reaction video. I'm going to be reacting to Shadow and Bone, as well as an extra review per month. And I think that one, I'm going to let the premium and super duper club members pick the book that I review, and maybe it'll be something like, it'll be a little steamy or something. I don't know yet, but yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. And you also get access to an exclusive Discord server, the Don't Fret Club Discord server, where we can talk about books, TV shows, music, all that stuff. You know, we can share our writing, and we're gonna work on like other features and other things. And I think that like I've had a lot of fun like doing these videos, and I think I want to take this like content making thing a little more seriously. And so your support will enable me to do that. and it'll help make this content better, and it'll help like the channel grow and make it more sustainable for me. And also like in the future, like I don't think that I'm in a place to do like a merch shop or anything like that just yet. But when I do, like patrons will get like a discount code and all that kind of stuff. I wanted to make sure that this, exclusive content was still accessible. So there is a tier that's pretty cheap. It's like $3 Canadian, which I don't know, maybe that's like $1.75 American. I don't know. And then like the higher tiers, you get like a shout out in the end credits. And the highest tier, you get like I'll like verbally shout you out at the end of videos, kind of like Reads with Rachel's "Thank you for being a friend," but I'm not gonna do that because I don't want to. And if you don't want to support the channel in that way, you just want to do like a one-off, you can still like tip me, buy me a coffee. I'm kind of doing this pitch in reverse because I usually go, thank you so much for watching this video, especially if you made it to the end. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. I already said the other thing, so sign up for the Patreon for exclusive content you won't find anywhere else and access to the exclusive Discord server. And that's kind of it. Thank you so much for participating, giving me your hot takes. I'm having a lot of fun making these videos, and I hope that you're enjoying them and you're finding them entertaining, and like maybe you feel like we're chilling, hanging out, talking about books. I don't know what you feel, but I hope that you're enjoying them because I enjoy making them. And thanks again for watching. My name is D. Don't fret. I'll see you next time. Peace out.